this video, I'm going to be walking you through the rest of the BMAT 2020 Section 1 paper. In a previous video, I've gone through questions 1 to 16, and in this video, I'm going to go through questions 17 to 32. A lot of people have been struggling with Section 1, and hence why I'm going through the Section 1 stuff first. If you would like to see anything else, please let me know in the comments below. Hey, my name's Hamzah, and I'm a third year medic currently studying at the University of Cambridge, teaching you how to get in the top 10% of the BMAT cohort just like I did. Moving on to question 17. Recent research suggests that antiretroviral drugs designed to prevent HIV-positive individuals developing AIDS also have an effect on MS. A study of 21,000 HIV-positive individuals treated at English hospitals between 1999 and 2011 found that they were 62% less likely to develop MS compared to non-HIV positive individuals. One explanation for this could be that HIV infection actually combats the onset of MS in some way. However, some theories on the development of MS suggest that it has its own origins in a viral infection. Which of the following can be drawn as a conclusion from the above passage? So, in this question, you want to try and find out what the reasons are. If you can identify the reasons for the conclusion which it's going to give you, then it's easier to find the conclusion, because the conclusion builds on the reasons which builds on the hypothesis, or the premise. Okay, so antiretroviral drugs may prevent the onset of MS. That is the answer in this case, but we'll go through the other ones. Antiretroviral drugs are given to all HIV positive patients. No, it doesn't say that in the thing, and even if it did, it wouldn't be a conclusion, just because it's not built upon any evidence. Antiretroviral drugs may be a treatment for MS. Now, this is also sort of in the paragraph, but it never says anything about treatment of MS, it just talks about the onset. D. Antiretroviral drugs may eliminate a range of viral infections. Now, that isn't a conclusion because the paragraph talks extensively about MS, hence why it's not a conclusion, because it's a bit weird for it not to be in the answer. E. Antiretroviral drugs should not be given to those at risk of developing MS. Again, nonsense. It doesn't talk about it at all in the paragraph. Moving on to question 18. A banana costs 20p, a nectarine 30p, and a mango 45p. I spent exactly £1.50 on some or all of these fruits. Which of the following statements is incorrect? So with these sorts of questions, it's probably best to go through all of the options and then try and deduce which one it is, just because it'll be a lot quicker than you figuring out, oh, what is possible, what's not possible. So A. I cannot buy all three types of fruit. Now this is true because you'd have to buy at least 2 mangoes. You have to buy at least 2 mangoes because mangoes are 45p and the total is £1.50. And so you can't buy just one mango because you need to make it for the 5p at the end, if that makes sense. So you either have to have 2 mangoes or no mangoes at all. Let's say you have 2 mangoes. You now have 60p left, and a banana costs 20p and a nectarine costs 30p. So 50p versus 60p, it's not compatible. So A is correct. B. I could buy more than 3 bananas. Well, if you paid for 6 bananas and 1 nectarine, that's still possible. So no, it can't be B. C. I cannot buy more than 2 mangoes. That is true because I've already said this already. Because mangoes are too expensive in one and they have a 5p at the end. D. I cannot buy fewer than 5 items. That's false because you could buy 2 mangoes and the rest nectarines, which is what? 2 other nectarines. So that would be 4 fruit in total. So that's false. So the answer is D. Moving on to question 19. James needs to buy some new batteries and has compiled the table below showing the prices of the different packs available. James needs 6 AAA batteries and 3 D batteries. What is the least amount that James could pay to get the batteries that he needs? So to get 6 AAA batteries, you can either buy a pack of 8, a pack of 4 and a pack of 2, or 3 packs of 2. If you buy 3 packs of 2, that's £10.50 or $10.50, which is the same as a pack of 8. So it's likely that the 4 and 2 is going to be cheaper than either of those options. So 4 and 2 would make $10. So that's the cheaper one. So in your mind, you have $10 there. Now for the D batteries, he needs 3 of them. So you can either get 3 ones, a 2 and a 1, or 4. Now if he gets 3 ones, that is $10.50, which is more expensive than the 4. If he gets a 2 and a 1, that's $9. And if he gets a 4, it's $8.50. So $10 plus $8.50, $18.50, which is D. Moving on to question 20. The following structure is a triangular based pyramid made from black and grey rods and white, grey and black spheres connecting the rods together. The black and grey rods are all the same length. If this structure is rolled like a dice and lands on the surface of the table, which one of the following is not a possible view from the top? So here you should try and orientate yourself. So you need to make sure that you know which lines are always connected to which dots. So in this scenario, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 lines and 2 dots and 2 black dots. So 4 black lines and 2 black dots. So if you just look through, and you can see that they all have 4 black lines and 2 black dots. The ones that kind of stick out at me straight away are this one, and yeah, it's just this one, because the others have a similar black shape. So this one's got like this arrowhead black shape in the lines. This one's also got an arrowhead, this one's also got an arrowhead, this one's also got an arrowhead. And so this kind of black line shape thing doesn't make sense to me. And I can confirm that by saying that each black dot has 2 lines going to it, whereas in this one, this black dot has 3 lines going to it. So in the real exam, I'll be able to do that very quickly just looking at other shapes. So the answer is B. Moving on to question 21. Positive discrimination, also known as affirmative action in the US, is the process of increasing the number of employees from underrepresented groups in workplaces from which they have been excluded, but preferentially selecting recruits from those categories. Although many countries, including the US, allow the practice of positive discrimination, it remains illegal in the UK under the Equality Act 2010, and so it should. So this "and so it should" is an opinion, and so we're looking straight away at, okay, this could be either a premise or a conclusion, depending on whether it's being negated later on or not. Positive discrimination serves not only to lessen the sense of achievement for those who belong to the relevant minority, but also to foster resentment amongst those who do not. Qualifications alone should decide employment decisions. After all, a person's qualifications are the best reflection of their true ability. So, and so it should is the conclusion because it's not being negated later on. Which of the following is the best expression of the main conclusion of the above argument? Positive discrimination devalues the achievement and fosters resentment. No, I mean I've already said what the conclusion is. So if you just look down the list, D is the only one that it can be, because it refers to this sentence here. It remains legal in the UK under the Equality Act, and so it should. Positive discrimination ought to remain illegal in the UK. That one was a fairly simple one. I could spot it without even going through the rest of the question. 22. A belief is a thought about how things are, about what really is or is not the case. For instance, someone who believes in God believes that a being such as God actually exists. Assuming that people would prefer to have true beliefs rather than false ones, then they need to find a way to determine which is which. Unfortunately, people have a tendency to want to protect their existing beliefs by only seeking evidence that supports them and being blind to contrary evidence. This makes for a very poor test of whether a given belief is indeed true. Actively seeking the evidence that goes against your own beliefs allows you to make a proper assessment and consequently a far more reliable judgment. Which one of the following can be drawn as a conclusion from the above passage? If people want to know if their beliefs are true, they should think about why they might be false. That might be the answer. We'll see the others and see if that's the best one. B. People who believe in God are in greater danger than atheists of becoming blind to evidence that goes against your beliefs. No, the argument says specifically that everyone wants to protect their own beliefs. Not just people who believe in God or atheists. People typically want to have true beliefs rather than false ones. That's not really a conclusion, that's kind of an assumption that's kind of made, or it's a premise on which the argument is built upon. People who feel certain about their beliefs are more likely to have false ones. Again, that's a very small part of the argument. Once you accept a belief as probably true, you cannot then change your mind about it. Now, the Sigma and BMAT course is really good at this, in that it shows you exactly in how to spot a premise, how to spot a conclusion, how to spot a reason, a negation, and how to use all of them to come up with the right sort of answer for a question of this type, which in this case is A. So, moving on to question 23. If we want to reduce our carbon footprint by travelling by train instead of by air, we must be prepared for journeys taking longer and being more expensive. I would be willing to pay a higher cost, but cannot make my trips to Europe by train as I do not have time available. So I have to make the journey by plane. It won't be possible for me to reduce my carbon footprint. Which one of the following most closely parallels the reasoning in the above argument? So it starts off with a conditional. If we want to reduce our carbon footprint by traveling by train instead of air, we must do this. So if this, we must do this. To make bread successfully, Jason needs some fresh yeast and a warm kitchen for his bread dough to rise. So it could be that one. So to do this, he needs this. Christina will not be able to go to her first choice of university. So won't be able to go to her first choice of university. To achieve that, she needed top grades. So she needed top grades. So it could be B. C. It is rarely possible to see the northern lights from anywhere except the upper northern hemisphere and in the winter. It doesn't have the must aspect anywhere in there. It's got the rarely possible, but it's not quite as strong as must. To reduce food waste, everyone should plan meals and eat food left over from a meal on the following day. Again, it's got a should aspect, not a must aspect to it. E. If Mahmood wants to work in London, he has to either live in London or commute for 3 hours each day. Now that has the has to aspect to it. So it could be A, B, or E. Now in the question it says, I would be willing to pay a higher cost but cannot make my trips to Europe by train as I do not have time available. So I have to make the journeys by plane. So I would be willing to do this, but I can't because of this. Therefore it won't be possible. So A. The yeast he is using is out of date and his kitchen is old. So there's no aspect of him saying he wants to make bread, or there's no positive. It's a negative and a negative. The yeast is out of date and his kitchen's old, so it's two negatives together. B. She failed to get the best grades, but she did well in the interview. So she did well in the interview but didn't get the best grade, so it could be B. E. Mahmood cannot afford to buy a house in London, nor can he commute. Therefore he can't work in London. So the answer is B. Because E has two negatives again, so the answer has to be B. Question number 24. Small factory, 4 types of cycle: bicycle, tricycle, tandem, unicycle. The number of essential components required for each product is shown in the table below. Yesterday, 10 saddles, 14 wheels, 9 handlebars, 7 cycles in total. How many tricycles? So straight away, looking at the table, you can see that saddles 2 for tandem, whereas it's 1 for everything else. So we should try to figure out the saddles first, just because it'll be easier than trying to figure out anything else. So if there were 7 cycles made and all of them have 1 saddle except for the tandem, that means that there must have been 3 tandems, because there were 10 saddles and 7 cycles. So that means that there must have been 3 tandems. Now you have 4 cycles for the rest of them. So 4 unicycles, tricycles, and bicycles. Now taking the next complex one is probably handlebars, because there's only 1, 2, 3 different numbers, whereas with wheels there's 4 different numbers. So looking at handlebars, we know that we have 3 tandem bikes. So 3 times 2 is 6. So 6 handlebars are in the unicycles and the tandem bikes. That means that there must be 3 handlebars left, because if there's 6 in the unicycles and the tandem bikes, 3 times 2 is 6, 9 minus 6 is 3. So that means that there must be 3 bicycles and tricycles. So, and we said that there's 3 tandem bikes, and therefore 3 plus 3, 6, but there's 7 cycles in total. So there has to be 1 unicycle. Fine. So 3 tandem bikes, 1 unicycle, and 3 of these. Now looking at the wheels. So 3 tandem bikes would be 6 wheels. 1 unicycle would be 1 wheel. So 6 and 1 is 7. 14 take away 7 is 7. So you need to get 7 from this 2 and this 3. So how would you do that? 3 at 2 at 2. So that means that there must have been 2 bicycles and 1 tricycle. Therefore there was 1 tricycle built. So 24 is B. Now that is a slightly longer question. If you had paper, it'd be a bit easier than me explaining it out loud. But in the exam, I'd maybe think about skipping it, just because it's a table. There's a lot of different numbers on there. 10, 14, 9, 7, all the 1s, 2s, and 3s. And so I would maybe skip it and do it at the end. but the answer is B. Again, I've got some really small but really good tips on how to do these really quickly on the Sigma Med BMAT course. So I definitely check it out if I were you and you wanted to get faster at these sorts of questions. Question number 25. I want to buy a brochure which costs 49p. I have a pocket full of small change and so want to use as many coins as possible. I have 8 1p's, 5 2p coins, 5 5p coins, 3 10p coins, and 1 50p coin. What is the largest number of coins I can use and pay the full price? So you obviously want to start from the 1p coins. So 8 1p coins, add 5 2p coins, gets to 18p. Now adding any 5s and 10s onto 18p will not get you to 49p, no matter what you do. So you want to start off at 14p. So 8 1p coins, add 3 2p coins, gets you to 14p. Now you have 14p and 11 coins, because you have 8 1p coins and 3 2p coins. So 14p at 25p from the 5 5p coins gets you to 39 pence. Add the 10p coin and you've got 49 pence. So how many coins was that? 8 1p coins, 3 2p coins, 5 5p coins, and a 10p coin.
5 5p coins, and
so that's 17 coins in total. So the answer is D. Moving on to question number 26. The diagrams below relate to a recent referendum in Bolivia and whether the country should remain a member of or leave the Continental Union. 2/3 of those eligible to vote did so. What proportion of the total population voted for leaving the Continental Union? So, if 2/3 of those eligible to vote did so, then 2/3 of this 80%. So what is 2/3 of 80%? Just in your head, if you do 90%, which is 30, and then the difference between 90 and 80 is 10, so 10 divided by 3 is 3, so 30 minus 3 is 10 divided by 3 is 3 and a bit, and so 80 divided by 3 is 30 minus 3 and a bit, which is about 27, just under 27. 2/3 of those eligible to vote did so, and so 2 times 27, 54, 54% of those voted. And then the proportion that voted to leave, 54 times by 60, or 60% of 54%, which is 5.4 times 6, which is 30 point something, 32.4 I think. And so the answer is likely to be 26A. Now in the real exam I would be doing long division if I had time at the end, but what I've done now is just a very quick kind of mental math sort of way, and it's one of the tricks that I teach in the Sigma Med BMAT course in a lot more detail, and I develop it further and explain a bit more. So yeah, 26A. Moving on to question number 27. US health authorities have linked at least 18 deaths and more than 1,000 cases of a mysterious lung illness with vaping, an alternative to smoking in which users inhale an aerosol or vapor. Just in case you didn't know what vaping was, because of course no one does. The symptoms include chest pain, fatigue, and shortness of breath. And while doctors have not been able to establish what is causing the illness, and it has not been linked to any particular product, vaping oils containing THC appear to pose a greater risk. However, if the level of risk is not well understood by doctors, people should, for the moment, still have the right to make their own choice. The government should not impose a ban on vaping until more research has been completed. Which one of the following best illustrates the principle underlying the argument above? So what is the principle? The principle is that we shouldn't ban anything, even if we think that it's doing bad. If we don't know the specifics, then we shouldn't ban it. So we're looking at something which says the same sort of thing in one of these. A. More needs to be done to prosecute those who create scam emails as they always result. So this kind of always results. I talk about this quite a lot in the Sigma Med BMAT course, and you know I go through it in a lot of detail. But because of the always results, it can't be that in this case. Planned passenger trips into space should not be cancelled on safety grounds, as we have not yet fully investigated the dangers involved. So it could be B, because it's the whole we shouldn't cancel because we don't fully know what's going on yet. We should not impose limits on gambling, even though people who gamble more than a certain amount every month are almost certain to find themselves in financial difficulty. Almost certain, I don't know, maybe. D. It is right that speed limits are in place as they help to prevent accidents which have a greater chance of causing serious injury. Okay, so this one's saying that it is right for things to be put in place, so it can't be D. E. The rules preventing publication of incorrect information in the media are justified as such information causes considerable damage. Again, they're saying that we should have rules. So the answer is B. Question number 28. Two identical rectangular pieces of paper are arranged to overlap each other by 5 centimeters. One of the rectangles has been folded to make the structure below, not to scale. The length of the whole arrangement is 75 centimeters. What is the length of one of the pieces of paper? So the way you do this is the most simple way is algebraically. So if we say that each piece of paper is x, then we have 2x here. Then we have to minus 5 for this part here. And then you have to minus 6 for the part here and the part here. This 3 centimeters, you can think of it as like have been transplanted there, but it doesn't affect the length in total. Minus 6 is equal to 75. Now if you rearrange that, so you get 2x is equal to 75 plus 5 plus 6, which is equal to 2x is equal to 86. Therefore x is equal to 43. And so the answer is C. This one's pretty quick. You'll be able to do it pretty quickly in the exam. If you understood the question very quickly, you'll be able to do it quite quickly in the exam. Moving on to question number 29. Silk gets stronger when supercooled, whilst other materials get weak and brittle. The discovery was made by a group of scientists shooting bullets at various supercooled items and filming them shatter. When they tried it on a spider web, it didn't work. The web just caught the bullet. At the time, it was an interesting curiosity, but plainly it has enormous practical significance. So this part seems like a turning point in the argument. I'd want to kind of think about it in the future. It might be a conclusion which we might need in the future. Again, more on what a conclusion is on the Sigma Med BMAT course. And it really helps with these sorts of questions. By studying how the spider makes its silk, we can learn how to make polymers, plastics, that don't get brittle in the deep freezer, or in outer space, or in the Arctic. Moreover, natural silk can itself be used to manufacture objects for use in extreme conditions. The 500,000 tons already produced annually is almost certain to increase dramatically. Again, the 500,000 tons produced annually is almost certain to increase is also an interesting point. Which one of the following is the best expression of the main conclusion of the above argument? Silk increases in strength when it's supercooled. That is an important part of the argument, but it's more of a premise. It's more what the whole argument or the story in this case is kind of built upon. The effect of extreme cold on a spider web was not at first taken seriously. This again is like a side point. The whole point of the argument is that it's really cool. We should take this seriously. So the fact that would be the conclusion, it doesn't make sense. The discovery that silk does not get brittle when supercooled is highly significant. That seems to be the conclusion, just because it talks about silk getting stronger, and then interestingly, and then it's gonna almost certain, and then the 500,000 tons already produced annually is almost certain to increase dramatically. So it kind of links the first, the middle part, and the last part of the argument quite well. So it could be C, or it's very likely to be C. We can learn how to make polymers that withstand cold from the way in which spiders make their silk. That's true, but it sort of leads to the fact then that it's quite significant. There is almost certain to be a large increase in silk production. So C is like the part between D and E, and so it is the conclusion. Moving on to question 30. Paint company 2 coding systems to define the colours. One is a YMC, which is from 0 to 63 to represent proportions of Y, M, and C. The other is OCT, which is 6 numerical digits. Table shows YMC and OCT next to each other. Customer wants a gold-coloured painting mix, YMC 50, 41, 34. Where's the OCT code? Okay, fine. So in these sorts of things, you just want to try and dig deep and see what strikes you as interesting. So what strikes me as interesting is straight away I can see this 0, 0, 0, 0, which is 0, 0, 0, 0 OCT. And that doesn't help us with the question, but it just shows that there is some sort of correlation between the two. And now because we know that 0 is 0, we can go to these at the top. So if we look at this one, 63, 63, 0, you can see that the 0 is 0, 0, and that's at the start. So the C is always at the start. So if we look at a 41 cyan, if I look down here for 41 cyan, we can see that 41 is equal to 50 here. And there's only one which starts with 50, which is C. So 30 must be C. There's loads of ways for you to do this question. You don't just have to choose cyan, you could choose yellow, magenta, but it just so happens that cyan's the quickest way, and so the answer is C. Moving on to question number 31. Obesity has increased greatly in recent years in the UK. Some commentators have attributed this to people becoming greedier in a consumer society. However, obese people should not be blamed for their condition when it's the food environment in Europe that has changed. Obesity results from a combination of genetic factors and a fast food culture that provides an easy supply of cheap, sugary, and processed snacks and meals that are high in calories. This is compounded by the shift to more sedentary lifestyles, both at work and in leisure time, which has led to a lack of exercise. Which one of the following, if true, would most weaken the above argument? So I'm thinking straight away that, okay, the food culture hasn't changed too much, or people like to run in their leisure time, for example, stuff like that. A. Many people are unaware of the dangers of unhealthy eating. Probably not A. B. There are some foods available today that are not high in calories. Again, so the food environment hasn't quite changed. It could be B. C. Levels of obesity are higher in the UK than in most other European countries. Yes, this would weaken the argument because it says that the food environment in Europe has changed and is to blame. So, if levels of obesity are higher in the UK than in most other European countries, then it's not the European food climate which is to blame. It's something to do in the UK. So, I think the answer is C. D. Food retailers are largely responsible. No, again, that would be promoting the argument. E. The government has not taken adequate steps to regulate the types of food available. Again, would be promoting the argument. Moving on to question number 32. A puzzle consists of 4 tiles, all of which have the shape shown below. On each tile, one of the squares is coloured black and the other 3 are coloured white. No 2 tiles look the same. The back of each tile is grey. Which one of the following patterns can be made by placing the 4 tiles together? So straight away, I'm looking at this and I'm sort of confused. I probably wouldn't do this one like on my first pass. I'd probably wait for right at the end because I know that if I were to figure out, I'd have to go through so many different patterns and stuff. And so yeah, I would probably figure out towards the end. But let's go through it now. So the key here is that all of the 4 tiles look different. And so you've kind of got to draw around it. You got to draw around the tiles. There's no easy way of doing this. There's no kind of look at it or could be this, could be this, could be this. No, you've got to try and figure it out for yourself. Now it just so happens that this diagram works for D, and so the answer is D. A lot more information on how to tackle these sorts of really hard problem solving questions in the SimilarMed BMAT course. So please give it a look. Now that's all I have on 2020 BMAT Section 1 paper. If you want any more Section 1 content 2021, 2022, then please let me know and I'll do another walkthrough for that. Thank you and I'll see you in the next one.